a rule was signed into law in April that requires TikTok to separate from its parent company ByteDance, which is Chinese owned, or they risk getting banned in the United States. The concern is that the Chinese owned and operated app collects sensitive user data from Americans and might manipulate public opinion. They might spread information through the algorithm. The law was appealed and then upheld, and ByteDance actually wants to appeal to the Supreme Court. But unless something changes, TikTok will be banned one day before Trump takes office. Trump worked towards banning TikTok during his first administration, but during 2024, he kind of reversed his position and said he would save it. So, Ben, ByteDance is arguing that banning TikTok would go against the First Amendment of free speech. Do you think TikTok is protected under free speech?
No, generally speaking, I don't. Free speech protections are not all-encompassing. You can't legally do things like incite violence or leak national secrets. And honestly, TikTok might present a real national security risk, as well as a risk to American citizens, and particularly minors. Most TikTok users are young, and the algorithms that control what they see, and by extension, what they are likely to think, are in the hands of a foreign power.
Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I think forcing TikTok to separate from ByteDance forces ByteDance to either give up their proprietary algorithm or to sell TikTok off and separate it from the algorithm that made it so popular in the first place. How do you see that working? Like, do you think this is an overreach to kind of choose which part? I mean, it's almost like breaking up a monopoly, but for a foreign government. Is it wrong to pick and choose which parts of this company get to stay?
So if it was an American company, then perhaps. But we need to keep in mind that we really have no idea what the algorithm is doing or who has a say in what it pushes. And again, kids are at risk here. So future generations of Americans might get funneled into patterns of thought that are curated by foreign entities. So I think that alone justifies the U.S. stepping in for the sake of our autonomy and the sake of our future.
Yeah, and another part of this discussion is, like you said, like data collection. I think a lot of parents maybe should be concerned about the type and particularly the amount of information that is being collected about their children. I mean, we've all sort of had the experience, right, where like you're talking about something and then you get like the ad right, 2 seconds later. I think TikTok is that on steroids, where you'll be talking about something super obscure and then you'll get a TikTok that's like, have you ever experienced exactly what you were just talking about? And it's very, very strange, but I think that is a sign in terms of how much information maybe they are collecting, but particularly with kids, right? Like kids are having their likes, their interests tracked, they're being cataloged, they're being manipulated, and then they're being leveraged all for the benefit of a foreign company. This comes along with things like location information. I mean, the Chinese government has laws that allow it to secretly acquire this information from Chinese companies. And that's another reason why the U.S. should kind of think long and hard about whether this is something we want to allow.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think it is dangerous, and it's something that minimally requires a lot of thought and discussion. And I don't think by any means we should rule out the possibility of banning TikTok, at least until some major changes are made.
Here's my problem with it, Ben. I love TikTok. I love it so much. And I love that the algorithm knows that I love like these super obscure kind of things. Like I'll get TikToks on there that have like 3 likes and I'll be like, this is beautiful. This is exactly what I'm looking for. Like, so whatever horrible techno crimes they've done, they've created like the digital crack cocaine that my body craves. So, I mean, like, I have a hard time going like, oh no, just separate the algorithm. I'm like, but I work so hard on my For You page. Like, so, on the one hand, obviously, like, China was building in like spy chips into Huawei phones, so we got Huawei phones out of here. China has been spying on all kinds of stuff, particularly social media, but even like, running apps and stuff that log your location. They're like finding out where military bases are that are secret because of that. So, I mean, there is like a national security risk, and I suppose I can sacrifice some aspects of my For You page for the greater good.
Yeah, Tyler.
For the greater good.
Yes, Tyler. I think just like Frodo in Lord of the Rings,